Today we're going to talk about the Lazarro curved soprano saxophone available from Amazon.com. Alright, so you're wanting to buy a curved soprano saxophone. Why? I don't know. We all have our own kinks. But you don't want to blow a lot of money on it, so you're looking at all these cheap alternatives from eBay and Amazon, and you're wanting to know which one doesn't totally suck. Well, today we're going to look at one of the ones available on Amazon called the Lazarro 320. These come in about 15 different finishes. They come from everything purple to electric blue. I chose the nickel and gold one. And I paid $229 for this horn back in 2019. Now, these horns are still available. It's the same model, but now on Amazon.com, they're $329. So, yeah, a little better deal for me, but hey, yeah, whatever. So anyway, we're going to go over the positives and the negatives and hope I can answer some of the questions on these and give our final thoughts. But let me stop wasting your time. Let's get going. All right, so let's go over the positives first. I'm going to talk about the build quality first on this because one thing that I was very appreciative of was the fact that when I opened it out of the case, guess what? It worked. Didn't have to do any adjustments to it, bend anything. There were no leaks in it. No corks, laying in the case or anything like that. It was actually, the quality assurance seemed to be very good. As far as the build goes, the one I chose is the nickel and gold one because I thought it looked good. No blemishes, no discoloration on it. I've had this for, like I said, about 2 or 3 years now, and there's no blemishes on it where basically you rub off all the lacquer on the B flat and side D key. All those are still there. So all in all, build quality is not too bad. The metal does not hurt. It's not made like a razor blade. It's not super thin. One small tiny thing that is really nice is that on the pearl inlays, well, the plastic, they actually beveled the edges on these. Now, some of the other ones I have, basically they leave them as this really sharp plastic, and it feels like basically you're ripping the flesh off your fingertips as you move your fingers across them. So, little tiny quality, of life there. So, kudos to them for that. So, yeah, I mean, all in all, it's really good. The keys don't move. Everything's where it should be. Build quality is fairly nice. So what about the tone? How does it sound? So as you can see from the sound, it has a very contemporary tone. Think more along the lines of like Dave Koz. So not bad if you like that kind of sound. A lot of pluses on this horn. But not all is well in the land of Lazarro. So let's talk about the negatives. Now I'm just going to get two petty ones out of the way right now. The case, it's one of these cheap, super cheap Chinese cases. They're terrible. They'll last maybe a year before they fall apart. And it comes with a beginner mouthpiece like every other saxophone does in the world. So, it is serviceable. If you don't want to buy another mouthpiece, you can use it. But I would strongly suggest you to buy another mouthpiece and chuck that one in the trash. But anyway, so those are the two small things, which only leaves one negative for me to this horn. That unfortunately is the intonation. The horn plays very, very flat to the point that I have to push my mouthpiece all the way down until it actually hits the tone hole for the octave key. This is not a good thing. Mainly for the reason if you have a major temperature change wherever you're playing this horn and it goes even flatter, guess what? You're totally screwed and you can't do anything about it. The other thing is, even with the mouthpiece all the way on, I have to actually still tighten my embouchure so much to get the lower octave to stay in tune. Like anything on from as soon as you hit that E to D, but you can hear the difference in it. And when you hit that and go lower, it suddenly becomes much more flat. So you're tightening your embouchure so much in order to try to get the horn in tune. Now, the middle octave is about where it should be, with where the mouthpiece is. But then, as with most sopranos, as you start going up into the upper octaves, it gets kind of sharp. So the issue you have with this horn is this horn, you're constantly fighting it. You're loosening your embouchure, tightening your embouchure all the time, just going up a single octave and a half. And during that, it becomes very frustrating because you have to pay such close attention to it that you don't get to really enjoy the flow of the music. So to me, that is really the only thing that makes this horn a very questionable purchase. And it's so amazing that everything else was so great on this horn. Like, the finish was great, the build quality is great, but then that intonation, man, it's a big bummer. So anyway, so let's talk about the final thoughts and who this horn is for and not for. All right, so final thoughts. Who should purchase this horn and who should stay away from it? So first I'll go with the easy one. Who is this horn for? Well, it's for someone like me who basically just wants to have another saxophone, sitting there, doesn't want to spend a lot of money, and likes to pull it out and play it when it's just... This horn is amazing to play. It's fun to play. Now, my main curved soprano is a 1923 Conn New Wonder, and the way the keys are on that thing, if any of you have ever played one of those horns, it is a nightmare to play. It absolutely sucks. But it has a great tone, and the intonation is rock solid on it. But this horn, great fun to play, but the intonation is kind of crap. So what I do with this, I basically pull it off the stand when I'm rendering something or I'm working on something else and I just want to jam, for a little bit. Sit there and play it, a couple minutes, have a good time, put it back, and I'm done. So it's great for that if you're just basically wanting to use it just for a good time. Who is this horn not recommended for? If you are wanting to learn to play the soprano saxophone, I cannot stress to you enough how much I think you're hurting yourself by buying one of these super cheap saxophones. That doesn't mean don't buy it, because I know that if I was going to if I wanted to learn to play soprano saxophone and I hadn't played saxophone and I saw one for like $330, I'd be like, my God, I'm buying that. I can afford that. I would buy it and I would learn on it and I would fight with it, but I would be happy. But from I guess a more professional standpoint of it is, if you are trying to learn to play the saxophone, this is a very difficult horn to learn on because of the required, your embouchure must be working, your ear must be working for you to be able to control the intonation going up and down. And it just makes it much more difficult and not as enjoyable to learn. But I totally understand if you don't want to blow, like, I think $700 would get you a Jean Paul, I think is how much those are. They might be a little bit cheaper now, but those is where I would start at for a beginner saxophone. Something in that range, like our Yamahas and stuff like that. But these Chinese ones to learn on, it's very hard for me to recommend for you because you will be fighting with it most of the time. So anyway, if you're a doubler or somebody who needs it for a couple of quick gigs, I would not, if you play all the time and you have good embouchure control, good ear training, then you could take this to a gig if you needed like it for a backup or something, and you would be able to survive the night. Some notes will be a little sour, but you'll still make it. So I hope that answers the questions about the Lazarro curved soprano 320. Like I said, it's a phenomenal, fun to play horn with only one glaring problem, and that unfortunately is that intonation. If it wasn't for that, this would be the biggest steal out there for curved soprano saxophones. So I hope that helps, and good luck.